All right, right here, this is where the shed's gonna go. You can see I have it marked off. I had the two stakes in the back there, this one here, and then we're gonna base it off the corner here of the basketball court. Start the basketball court, so that's what we're basing it. So that we have it staked off. We know we need to take out about 2-3 inches of dirt, um, and that's so I can get pretty close to level on here. So if I take out some about 2 inches, my 2x4 will get pretty flush to the top here. I actually want it to stick up a little bit, but not too much. So that's going to be our next step, is digging out the dirt, and then we're going to fill it with gravel, and then build our floor frames. So, but for this step, I did measure it out, and I took cross dimensions as well to make sure everything was square and equal. The shed is 8x6. This marked out area is 6.5 by 9 feet. I went about 6 inches past just to give myself a little bit of fluff. Some people say to go like a foot on each side, but I'm going to go a little smaller. So that's going to be our next step. I'm going to go grab some tools, and I'll show you how we're going to dig this out. All right, so to dig this out, I always use this tool here, which is what's called an edger. It has a half moon shape on it, and basically it's going to mark all the way across here. What you're doing is basically cutting the roots of the weeds and grass and everything. So you push down. I usually kind of give it one of those things. Just look at your line and make sure you're going straight. If you're extremely anal, you can always pull a string. I'm not all that worried about it. Even though we're not going to go as far deep as this thing goes, I always just go all the way anyway, and then use my shovel to fix the rest. So basically go around the edge like this. You can see I'm just a little off, but I don't really care. All right, then we would turn our corner here, and I'll continue down that line. Now, I do find it easier at times to add extra edging lines in here, so depending how hard it is to dig out, sometimes it makes sense to go ahead and run a couple in the middle so that when you use your shovel, it's breaking up and you're not causing any issues. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the edging, then we'll grab a shovel. All right, once you got all your edging done, if you take a flat shovel and kind of put it inside that edge line, you can kind of wedge it up a little bit, and then use your foot, push it in, and that top layer usually peels right off. So then if you have a wheelbarrow or wagon or something to put it right in, you can always do that. And then once you fill up, you go dump it, save yourself some time. If it ever gets stuck, sometimes it doesn't break. You can just grab it by hand and you can pull it. Usually that top layer isn't too bad, and then you just kind of keep moving in section by section. So like right here, it's all kind of stuck, so you can come over, grab it by hand, it'll just rip the roots and throw it off to the side. So we're going to do that in our square area here, and once that's done, we'll check in and start adding gravel. All right, we got the ground all excavated, where it's a couple inches down, and a little bit more around the concrete there. We're trying to get it more level. So what I'm going to do now is start hauling stone in, and give a nice base covering, and then we'll make sure it's level, and then we'll build our platform for the floor of the shed. All right, so we got all the gravel in. It's somewhat leveled. It's not great. I kind of followed the grade, but we'll get it all leveled once we get the floor on. So these 4 patio stones are some that I had in the yard from an old project. So I'm just going to use those to sit on. It'll provide a good foundation, a good platform for the floor framing to sit on. So that'll be our next step. So we've excavated the dirt. We've added the gravel, and next step is to build a floor. We're gonna do all treated wood, and we'll get started on that. All right, we're gonna start constructing the floor. So I did a quick diagram to kind of show you what I'm doing. So we're 8 feet wide by 6 feet deep. If we go 16 inches on center, we'll have a total of 6 joists. So we have the one at the beginning, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do a double rim on each side to help support those 2x4s that aren't sitting on the little patio stones. So I need 10 total 9-foot joists. You can also get a 12 and cut it down if you want. I just went ahead and got 10 8-foot pieces. So of those, we need the 6 over here cut down to the joist length. So follow me here. The double rim is 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. Each side, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. So we have a total of 6 inches, right? 1.5 inches plus 1.5 inches is 3 inches. 1.5 inches plus 1.5 inches, 3 inches. 3 inches plus 3 inches is 6 inches. So 8 foot is 96 inches minus 6 inches. We need them at 90 inches. So I'm going to cut 6 8-foot joists down to 90 inches. And then I'm going to take the remaining 4 and cut them down to 6 feet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that using a miter saw. And then once it's all cut, we will start assembling that floor. All right, so we got all our pieces cut. These are the 2 outside, or I guess inside rim pieces, 6 foot long. So to make things a little easier on the layout, if you butt them up together so that they're equal, you can come through. You want to mark every 16 inches. This is the red. Usually it's the red color. And if you know them like that, you're doing it at once, and you know that you're all lined up. So even if you're off a little bit, doesn't matter. You're lined up. And we got one more over here. And these will be center line marks, and so we'll center the joist on there, and we'll kind of touch on that once we get there. So the other thing, while we're over here, we can start our screws. It's usually easier on flat. Do it so you can still see the line, and then you can put it on there and get them started. So I'm going to do that throughout, and then we'll move on to our next step. All right, so we have our joist laid out. You see the joist, and then you can see the rim going around. And then let me zoom in. You can see the screws are sticking out there as well. So you want to make sure your short end, which was this end, is the same on both sides, obviously, so your joists are nice and straight. So I'm going to screw a couple of these in and show you that process. So in this corner here, and it helps if you have a level driveway, which I don't. This is the double rim piece, so we're just gonna put that off to the side. And then we're gonna square up these 2 pieces and make sure your tops are aligned and your outsides match. And go ahead and screw that home. And then look at your bottom and make sure if you need to twist it, you can. And make sure everything's lined up still. And if you're good, you go ahead and screw it in. So I'm just going to work my way down and do that across the board. So our next one here, same basic process. Line it up so it looks the best. I usually put that top screw in first. And then on these, I'm using a small square. If you put on there and butt up, you can see if you need to twist it at all. Mine, I do need to twist just a little bit. Looks good. And put that one in. So I'm going to work my way down and then do the other side, and then we'll get that other rim on. All right, so as you can see, we have the frame built up. We just have to do the double rim now. For that, I'm going to use these 3-inch screws. And it's the same basic process where we're just going to line these up. Move this down a little bit. Again, it's easier to get them started first and then just come and drive them home. And so to do that, you set this up here, like that. So then you can see all the joists, just line up your edge. So you can see that as well. And let's get a couple started. And you should do very similar to the joist. 3-inch screws going through 3-inch lumber, it's not going to hit the joist. So if you go off a little bit, that's okay. We're just trying to bring these two pieces together so they act together. All right, once you got all your joists in, just line it up. Make sure your ends line up and you're flush with the top. Once you are, go ahead and drill it home. If you skip a few, you can move down and line up in the middle. And then the end, and then you can just go through and pop the rest in. So I'm going to do that on this one, do the other side, and then our floor framing. Basic framing's done. We'll take it over, square it up, and put sheathing down. All right, so we got our floor built and it's in place. Before we put the sheathing on it, and we did 1/2-inch pressure treated sheathing, we want to make sure it's squared up. The easiest way to make sure it's squared up is to make sure your diagonal dimensions are the same. So you take your tape measure, look it on the one corner, read off your measurement. I'm at 119.5, and then you do the same thing from the other corner, and I'm at 120 3/4, which means I'm out of square, and that means this corner here needs to go over. So if I'm at 119 and 120, it should be around 1. See, so that's 120. And pull one from the other side. This is one of those things you want to double, triple check just to make sure everything's square. And I'm at 120.125. So pretty darn close. It's not going to get much better. So we can start putting on the sheathing. On the sheathing, I'm using 1 1/8-inch exterior screws. And I did intentionally put the short joist span, this short joist span on the front side that you're coming in, because I figure if I bring a mower or something that's a little heavier in, I might as well have that extra support up front. And since it's laid out 16 inches on center, you need to start with the big sheet of plywood in the back. So I'm going to lay that into place.
Alright, if you get everything right,
We should be looking pretty square on the sides, which I just need to go a little more to that side, sticking over a little bit. And then now we can screw it down into place. I'm going to screw it around the edge, and then I'll go about 16 inches or so on center through the end, in between along the joist. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so we got all the sheathing down. Our next step is to level it, because I think that back left corner is low, just visually. So we'll level it, and then we'll get to putting together the shed. All right, so now we're gonna level our platform, and then we'll get the shed built. So I usually find it easier to start on the short side, get that level, and then we can work on those back two corners. If you haven't used the level much, we look in here, you see a bubble in here on this side. Now you want that bubble between the lines, so in order to move that bubble, you have to lift the opposite side. So if I lift this, my left side, it goes up. And so then you just kind of have to figure out how much to do it. So I'm gonna back up a little bit here, and we're gonna use either pavers or tile or something to get it level. But first, I'm just gonna have a 2x4 here because that'll be 1.5 inches. And so if that gets me close, I'll at least know plus or minus what I need to do. So when I do that, that props it up. We can see the bubble moved, and that's pretty good. It could go up just a smidge more, but you're not going to get too much better. It's between the lines. This is what I'm looking for. So at this corner, I am 1.5 inches. So I'll get some pavers or something to put that up. So then we have the other sides. So if we walk around to our long side, and I'm gonna do that corner over there next. And I do have some old tiles here. They were from an old patio table. I just kind of kept them just in case. I don't know if they want to throw them away. So let's look at our bubble, and we're just a little off. It's actually not too bad. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna put one tile in this corner. Move it up just a little bit, and we look, and that also looks really good. So we just have this one last one. If we look, the bubble's out a little bit, so I'm going to try 2 pavers on this one, or two of these patio tiles. And that moved it, but not quite enough. So let's add one more. So with 3, we are we're pretty good. It's off just a smidge, but not much. So in theory, put this over here and it should be pretty good. So yeah, that's right on. So we have that figured out. We ended up with 1 tile on that corner, 3 over here, and a 2x4 over here. So, but I'm going to replace that either with a treated 2x4. I'll probably use a treated 2x4 since we see the 2x4 works. So I'll put a little piece of treated wood under there to hold it up. Treated, weather resistant, it's not going to rot. So that'll be good. So platform is all leveled. So our next step here is going to be to build our shed.